Welcome to Tone Talks. This is Attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks, here to have a discussion about Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president as a Republican, to figure out what this man is talking about. So much of what this man is talking about don't make a lot of sense. And I want to have the discussion today because I'm looking at Ramaswamy, I'm looking at Vivek, and I don't understand why he was in a black barber shop playing identity politics with an identity that isn't his to play with. Can we talk about it? So I've called, several people have called for this boycott. You know, we did a boycott of Woman King. It was quite successful. And what I'm calling for is for us to ignore this man, for us to be honest that this man is not of our politics and this man is not talking anything but nonsense and trying to anchor it in us, because otherwise he don't make no sense running for president. We'll talk about why, from his political stance to his lineage to his actual purpose, but he's just saying anything and trying to anchor it on top of blackness because he's brown. And what he's saying is, because you guys took Kamala, who's Indian and Jamaican, and because you guys took Barack Obama, who was Kenyan and white, you might as well take me too. And what I would say to you is, this is what we were saying is the consequence of it all. Can I talk to you today? Can I bring the discussion up? I got people all across this country coming in this chat. We got a new laptop, so we just trying things out here to get this discussion going. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be hard for you because I'm going to say some things that might not make you feel good. I see you in here, Aaron. Is everybody out there? Does everybody see this discussion going on with Vivek? You got family members that showed up to a barbershop that had no business being there. He said he agreed a lot with President Trump's policies, got the white folks in the back. Then he showed up at the black barbershop, and supposedly this black man voted for Trump as well. I read an article, excuse me if the article got it wrong, in this black barbershop, and he's supposed to be getting a lineup from this man. It definitely don't look like he lined this man's head up. He had his sound where he sounded like Barack Obama, who sounded like a black preacher in the 60s. And what you see is the consequence of never anchoring ADOS until me and Yvette Carnell came around, meaning American descendants of slavery. You see the consequence of treating us through the status of being minority or even black versus being ADOS. And that consequence is it creates a doorway for people in a way that you could never go to his country. I mean, he's Brahmin. We'll get into what Brahmin means. Many of you guys were failed by your parents because they didn't take you traveling enough. Let me say that again. Not only do we have a problem with the amount of massive immigration that our identity, I would argue, was not prepared for, but your parents also didn't take you down to Tijuana. So you know that there's an influx. You know your children are going to have to go through this, but then you don't take them anywhere, so they only understand white and black, so they're not prepared for this moment. So you don't understand that he's Brahmin. We'll talk about what that means. That means he's of the most elite caste in India, just like Kamala. You have no idea and no anchoring of who's in your chair, but you over here cutting his head and letting him talk and teach you about immigration. I don't need no lessons from him. Can I talk about it? Can I get to it? For those people that would ask, I've been to South Africa. I've been to Beijing. I've been to I was in Tijuana last week. I was in Tijuana on Wednesday. I'm saying this to you not to gloat about it, but to say, how can I talk to you if I have a political science degree from one of the top institutions in the world in UCLA? And also I've traveled to all of these countries and you ain't been nowhere and you ain't got no advanced education, and you want to debate with me with no understanding that he's Brahmin and what that means. I need you to understand, because you got people out here talking that talk. What I'm saying is that we need to boycott Vivek Ramaswamy, and we need to boycott the right. I'm sorry. Some of y'all already voted. We'll talk about that in a second. How many people in the chat, actually, you probably won't want to raise your hand, got arrears in child support? I don't want to hear from you with arrears in child support about how you want to vote for the Republicans in small government. You made your vote already. The day you didn't pay your child support, you made your vote, whether you know it or not. It's like going into the store It's like going into the store, eating all the bread, and being like, oh, I might go to a different store. You ate already. I'm talking to the other people when we talk about your vote. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to vote with a child support arrears, but you need to really realize how big government is in your life. And that's not just for the child support. It's not just about Black males. It's about Black women too that owe child support. It's about more than child support. It's about your grandmama's SSI. It's about your sister's food stamps. It's about your status of being wealthless. I want to get into it because y'all got right-wing views and ADOS bank accounts. He said he rejects identity politics, but shows up at a Black barbershop to play on identity that is not his to play on. Please support the channel, Tone Talks, tonetalks.net to subscribe and donate and share. My Patreon is Tone Talks. I want to get into this discussion. 310-388-3499 will be the call in. I want to have the discussion around Vivek Ramaswamy and how he has no business using Black identity as if he's ADOS. Now, we already had this discussion in regard to Kamala, in regard to Obama. So don't think this is just new. ADOS been here. But if you don't see it in terms of Ramaswamy, you might as well forget about your babies because you don't understand peoplehood, no way. You up here talking about whether somebody dating white, but not focused on whether they dating ADOS. And then in the end, you don't really care, no way. Because in the end, you just trying to just survive. I just want to get into it. How many people, just in the chat right now, I'm a think that this man lined up this man's head. This man here did a lineup on this man's head. I don't know what them clippers is on. We out here playing. And how many people watch this video as well? And I want you to answer. Do you think he lined up the front of this man's head with this? I don't even see the hair being cut. This is all cosplay. Somebody said it in the chat. Look at this. Look in the mirror. Somebody said, look in the mirror behind them. What are they talking about? It's a photo op. It's a giant photo op. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? People said, nope, nope, nope. Cringy, ridiculous. We're going to dig deeper than just this picture and have a discussion about the lineal connection that me and Yvette Carnell created with ADOS. People was talking about Black when they needed to be talking about ADOS because they didn't understand, according to the Smithsonian, before 1960, the amount of Black immigrants in America was to the right of the decimal. To the right of the decimal. I need you to see how we have been bamboozled. Thank you so much for the support. Please support in the chat or on tonetalks.net or on Patreon because we're going to have a discussion. He said he rejects identity politics. To me, this is the same lineup. Here, this is not a haircut. And then he already doing the T line, so we finish. And then here. So what I said to this video, and I recommend go listen to it because what you actually heard is him use the dialect that was taught to Obama where you sound like you from a 60s pastor, but he Indian now. So we move from ADOS to Obama, who's Kenyan and white, to Kamala, who's Jamaican and Indian, to now we have a whole Indian guy that is actually sounding like a Black pastor in the 60s, quoting Dr. King in all the wrong ways, and y'all don't understand what the problem is and how your children ain't gonna make it? Please support that channel. Please support the channel. 310-388-3499 if you want to be heard. This is the nonsensical doorway that not anchoring American descendants of slavery, ADOS, Blackness, decades ago created. Meaning, instead of the rainbow that Jesse gave us, somebody should have gave y'all ADOS. If they gave it to you in 1975, we'd be so much further along. But instead, they gave you the rainbow, and now what you look at is the first Black president wasn't ADOS, the first Black vice president wasn't ADOS, the first Black press secretary wasn't ADOS. All of these people are not just Black immigrants. They're coming from countries that might have, how many Kenyans here? About 50,000? that don't have populations here, and they are being elected on the basis that it is ADOS progress, when actually ADOS are under boot to neck. But now he said, because you guys did that, I might as well just go on and get it slide in too. You don't got no identity, no way. This is the nonsensical doorway not anchoring ADOS blackness decades ago created. So y'all want to be B1 or FBA, all of it has black in it. As long as you still using black, you don't understand the topic. And I don't mean like we all don't use the word black, because that is the nomenclature in American language. What I'm saying is that if you're going to create a classification, you have to start building outward. And that means you build out of just using black back in the classification, because you're right back to the same place. It ain't going to be tomorrow that we stop saying the word black, but you can't put it in your classification and understand the topic. Can we talk? Can we talk about it? I need you to see it. Vivek clearly feels like far too many that if you identify by flat blackness, y'all don't have boundaries anyway. With this black barbershop scene, he is basically saying, I'm brown too, in my view. That's what he's saying to me. And you have them letting him teach a lesson about immigration, a guy whose family got here one generation back. I'm okay. I don't need no lessons from him. We as Black America should boycott Vivek, hashtag boycott Vivek. And I'd say that everybody should share that tweet. It's going to be up to you politically where you feel, but I think you should share it. This is an article from the Washington Post where he was using Dr. King in all the wrong ways, but Ramaswamy, like so many before him, used King's words from the '63 March on Washington not to explore how racial divides will split the country, but instead to suggest that all of that is behind us. So we post-racial as long as he can run for president, as long as he can get scholarships, as long as minority scholarships, as long as he can get $600 million on the back of the civil rights movement, because he wouldn't be able to get access without the civil rights movement. We post-racial as long as he can run for president. Thank you so much, High Priestess. I want you guys to see it. Thank you, Lavender Poppin, for sharing. Come on, ADOS Brief. A lot of people are confused. We not. Boycott Vivek. And this is about the right wing as much as it is Vivek. We'll get into it later with Charlemagne the God, the high school dropout that got one unit in night school history, getting us tied up with Tim Scott, who now is running for president. And in my view, really leveraging the black vote for the vice presidential play, splitting the black vote. But for a lot of people, shout out to Roderick, they need a lesson to understand what we're talking about. And that lesson is to understand what it means when somebody Indian says this to you. I have a dream that we can be one people again. By what right? I would not go to any part of India and start quoting what you guys go through. Start undermining what you guys are going through. By what right do you have to do it to us? He has no idea, because we never created boundaries. And he's saying, if you chose Kamala and Obama, you might as well choose me. He's saying, if you chose Kamala and Obama, you might as well choose me. This is a Euroweb article, came out yesterday. Should Black America boycott Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy? Some weigh in on Twitter, hashtag boycott Vivek. You have several different pieces. Should Black America boycott Republican Vivek Ramaswamy in his bid for the Republican presidential nomination for the 2024 election? Some think so and are voicing it on Twitter. This is a nonsensical doorway not anchoring ADOS blackness decades ago created. This is the tweet I just shared with you. You have him bringing up a point that Joy Reid tried to bring into, but what he illuminates is half the story. The first half is right. They all three are immigrants or children of immigrants. See, blackness allowed Joy Reid to become Black American and they just Indian. But in actuality, what he does point out is that they all three are immigrants. But what he gets wrong is you all owe us, ADOS people, the debt to be able to do the things you're doing right now in America. Because if it was not for us, you would not be here because your parents wouldn't have came. Because there wouldn't have been no opportunity. But first, Joy Reid and I discussed, and this is Rep. Rokana, I think is the name. I discussed why Vivek Ramaswamy's comments were embarrassing and wrong. Indian Americans owe a huge debt to the Black community, not to the Black community, to ADOS. There is a distinction that is important, because just as much as you as an Indian owe that, so do Black immigrants. I don't think we understand how much this is not a bi-transitional kind of thing. We don't go to Jamaica for school. We don't go to Nigeria for work opportunities. This is a one-way street. And I think what you see is the consequence of you not drawing those boundaries, and it's going to eat your children, your progeny, because there will not be opportunities for ADOS. I'm a man that sits in between generations, thinking about concepts for my book to explain it to you guys. I am an exennial. My mother was the last boomer, the first Gen Xer. I'm in between. So I am speaking for your children in the sense that my mama will be with a lot of y'all and I will be with your children. But my mama had me at 16, 17. So what happened was I came early. There is nothing behind you. And the reason why is because Joy Reid got the spot that's supposed to go to the ADOS. What do you mean? What are you saying, Tone? Well, what I'm saying is that Vivek is about to make a point. MLK Jr. got his idea of nonviolent protest from Gandhi, but I'm not going to sit here and say that means Black Americans owe Indians some debt of gratitude. We're not in India, though. We are in America. I don't know no Black people, ADOS Black people, bar somebody with a company or somewhere they go on with advantage and opportunity, and it's very rare, that go to India to go to school, that go to India for opportunity. We are in America. So don't tell me no transition or exchange. There's no exchange. But the second part is, but I'm not going to sit here and say that means Black Americans owe Indians some debt of gratitude. All three of us are kids of immigrants. And we owe gratitude to America, not to a racial group. All three of you owe debt and gratitude to ADOS people. Because without ADOS and the civil rights movement and the debt that was owed because of slavery and Jim Crow, you would not be here because your parents would have chosen not to come. They'd have left us with the cost. I need you guys to see what is going on. It is a switcheroo. And what I'm saying is, as a result of that switcheroo, what Vivek is doing, we not only need to boycott him, we need to look at it historically. We have seen a history of boycott, from the Montgomery bus boycott of the civil rights movement to the Donald Trump presidential inauguration being boycotted by John Lewis. Now, after the most recent political campaign stopped by Vivek at a barbershop to make a show of the recent issues with migrants, some are seeing a need to call for a clear message for Black America to boycott Vivek. In that recent stop, it appears that Ramaswamy played up identity politics while getting a haircut at a Black barbershop in Chicago and having a loaded political discussion around migrants. Many on Twitter have started to respond with anger over the possible consequences of the photo op on Black America. And again, we're talking about this photo op, and they got to talk about migrants, and somehow he got to teaching ADOS people about immigration. By what right? I replied under his actual post, his Twitter post on this video, and I said, this is crazed nonsense. And I believe it's the #1 reply under his video. So he's seen it. Vivek know I'm coming. He can call in if he want to. This is crazed nonsense by Vivek. He is sitting in this Black barbershop for a dangerous photo op and basically grandstanding on the top of Black identity to make a charged political point that requires a much more nuanced discussion. See, he needs our lineage to make it make sense for him to make the points. Because by what right does somebody whose parents just got here, who got immigration scholarships, and I'll go through that in a second, get to tell other immigrants about what it is to be American or not? He don't. But what he can do is try to lean on this. All this legacy, all this lineage, all this debt, all this building, all this rooting, all this ADOSness to create an alternative world where he can teach. Can't teach me nothing. I need you to see what I'm saying, because there's a lot of people that are confused about who they are, talking about they right wing with child support arrears and they grandmama on SSI and they sister on food stamps. You done already voted Democrat. You just don't know yet. I said it earlier. You can't eat the bread in the store and then talk about going to another store because you don't like this one. You ate already. I need you to talk to me. I need you to see it, because we're having the discussion that nobody else is having. No one will generally cast Indian Americans as xenophobic because of his statements. See, he get to say something and then another Indian ain't associated with what he said. The Indian women aren't going to come out and say that all the Indian men believe this. But that's not what happens to Black America, let alone Black men. See, this barbershop scene is dangerous, because what happens is this one Black man who nobody knows, and he becomes like a representation of all the Black men, and the first people to actually speak on it be Joanne Reed or some other Black pundit, that all Black men gonna vote for the Republicans. There is a specific cost to being ADOS, and he is tapping into the cost and gonna run right off and leave you with it. They will take that barbershop and this wild conversation and cast it across ADOS Black American communities, just like the images in this tweet with Trump. In particular, it is Black men that will be politically sidelined by ignorant political circus displays like this one. The total lack of political awareness by the people in this shop is on full display. This discussion needs to be had, but not in this way and not with him, all for Vivek's barbershop photo op. See, he's not the one to have it with. I'm not saying that you don't need to have a discussion about migrants or immigration. I'm saying it's not with him, this right-wing Indian man. And it's not in this barbershop. It's not at that moment. It's not for a photo op for him to post on his website. He put that up on his YouTube, on his Twitter, or he want to get the Black vote off of that. He ain't gonna tell you all the other stuff he's been saying about how Black people really aren't owed nothing. What you mean, Tone? What you mean? If you can't understand that when he says all three of us are kids and we owe gratitude to America, not to a racial group, he's saying he's anti-reparations. That's my read. Maybe you the genius and you can tell me different. I want to get into this discussion. I want to talk about it. I want you guys to hear it and hear where I'm going. It's going to be a heavy one. I got a lot to get to. So we'll see if I get to some calls, but feel free. This discussion needs to be had, but not in this way, not with him. All for Vivek's Black barbershop photo op, like he grew up on the South Side and descends from American slavery. He does not. He's an Indian, a Brahmin Indian. But who else was a Brahmin Indian? Kamala. And we told you first. Everybody talked about, well, you guys are we're not Republicans, and we're not. We said down ballot Democrat because you got child support arrears, and your mama in Mississippi got food stamps, and your cousin that you don't talk to. So when we look at this thing, you are the reason that we said what we said. But we went in on a Democrat just like I'm going in on a Republican. We was the first to do it when it was hard to do it, when everybody said you're crazy for doing it. We told you how to draw boundaries years ago. This is the Philly Inquirer. It came out the day after, I believe, or the week of when Kamala announced for president, and everybody was confused. Nicole Hannah-Jones was confused about ADOS lineage. You don't remember that? And then Joanne Reed was confused about ADOS, and you guys are trying to differentiate. Everybody was confused and called us xenophobic for just trying to say that we're actually a unique people. We're not just flat Black. We told you how to draw boundaries years ago. It's not whether Kamala Harris is Black enough, critics say, but whether her policy will support ADOS. We're saying there is a difference in the justice demands for American descendants of slavery, and there is. But people are already using the boycott. They already sharing the boycott out there. Leave this man alone. You got Rock Robs. She said, boycott Vivek. You got Jeremy McCullum. You bold-faced liar. Boycott Vivek. Born in Cincinnati, Ohio, Ramaswamy, 37, is the son of Indian immigrants. His father, a General Electric engineer, and his mother, a geriatric psychiatrist. My parents came to this country with no money, and a couple decades later, I started a multi-billion-dollar company. Ain't it some bootstrap story that he told us? Tyrone was locked up over 21 years, and a couple decades later, he worked hard to succeed and crushed it in real estate. Okay, so we all done made it. You got him saying all this about immigration, but he got the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans. We gonna talk about that. That's a fellowship for immigrants. We can't get that, but he could. Boycott Vivek. You got Deb Dirty Look saying, get out of here. Boycott Vivek. Can we talk today? He's saying, I want to put the merit back into America, but got a scholarship we can't apply for immigrants, and telling us to be anti-immigrant when he an immigrant. Tell me how that works. Well, he was born here, Tone. He was born here. All right. A wealthy anti-woke activist joins the 2024 presidential field. Vivek Ramaswamy, 37, has made a name for himself in right-wing circles by opposing corporate efforts to advance political, social, and environmental causes. That's who you guys have at this barbershop. Before I keep going, you have a guy that's against everything your family needs to survive. And you just are smiling and y'all just having a good time. We're gonna get into these Democratic plantation people. I just want to know how much independent wealth you have. Because I don't want look, there's a lot of people in here, and I can't hear from you if you have $100 in the account and your kid's going to public school on Monday. Because that's $12,000 a year. You ain't paying enough taxes. I'm tired of hearing the nonsense when you're not doing no political organizing. Shout out to Yvette Carnell and the ADOS org. They had their organizational meeting yesterday. I showed up. Hopefully you showed up to get some training. There's a lot of talking about Democratic plantation, but where's your training? Where is your training? What were you doing Sunday? Oh, you was watching the Boston Celtics? What was you doing Saturday? Watching the Lakers? You're doing a lot of talking, but you got a lot of kids. Yvette don't have no kids, and she's doing a training so we can have political answers. But you telling me about a Democratic plantation using all our tax money. Ain't got no burial money. We'll get into it. Ain't got no burial money, no savings, 3 kids, going to public school, family on food stamps, and talking to me about a plantation. Vivek Ramaswamy, a multi-millionaire entrepreneur and author, entered the Republican presidential race on Tuesday with an appearance on Tucker Carlson's Fox News show and a video centered on opposition to social justice activism. He against all the reparations and all the black agenda, and you just standing there just smiling. Let's do it again. At the barbershop. Don't have an idea about his politics. All you know is what he tell you right there. Mr. Ramaswamy is a former biotech executive and hedge fund partner who made a name for himself in right-wing circles by opposing corporate efforts to advance political, social, and environmental causes. He was particularly denounced environmental, social, and governance investing, or ESG, a framework under which financial companies consider the long-term societal effects of their investment decisions. You know, all that toxic environmental racism in the South, he against that, dealing with that. No, put the sludge in there. His announcement video signaled that he would focus his campaign on the notion that conservatives are being culturally victimized, by a social and political focus on the effects of racism and other forms of bigotry. By what right does an Indian man whose life sits on the backs of our families doing civil rights get to say anything about opportunity? You would not be here. You would have no opportunity if it weren't for our slavery, our Jim Crow, our civil rights. I have no idea how you got here. I have no idea how nobody put a foot in your ass. I have no idea how nobody has let you know you would not have anything that you have without our fight. I'm not advocating no violence. When I say a foot in his ass, I'm talking about literally shutting him down when you talk to him, letting him know, get out of my face. I don't even know who you are. Can we talk about it? His use of the word religions was intentional. He wants to cast diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, or DEI, as religions, which will prevent companies from forcing employees to abide by them. If elected, Mr. Ramaswamy said in an interview with the New York Times on Tuesday, his first action will be to repeal Executive Order 11246, which is banned discrimination and required affirmative action for federal contractors. He wants that affirmative action out of here. He good. He got in. Ramaswamy got in. Can we talk? This is a heavy topic. This is not an easy one. Sometimes we do easy ones. But you have to understand his cast. And this is why I say traveling is important. And I'm not talking about just jumping over to Jamaica on a cruise. Traveling allows for you to understand immigration, different types of immigrants. Traveling allows you to understand there is no black immigrant. There's a Trinidadian, a Jamaican, a Nigerian, and even that isn't specific enough when you go to Africa because you got to get into the tribes. But you don't know that because your mama ain't take you nowhere. Your grandmama ain't take you nowhere. So now you speaking about basic concepts of black and white in a much more culturally diverse America. So when I talk to you, I got to teach you the letters and then the words and then the sentences just to have a conversation. But let me go ahead and do that and teach you the letter A in this conversation. And the letter A in this conversation is he's Brahmin. He is Brahmin, y'all. They have a hard caste where you can't elevate past your level. You are born into that caste. He told you about not coming here with no money, but he didn't tell you he was Brahmin when he got here. Might as well be good as money. He told you about not coming here in America with no money, but he didn't tell you that he came here as a Brahmin. We were Adolfs. We down here with the untouchables, outcasts, street sweepers, latrine cleaners. Can I talk about it? This professor of peace and conflict said this Vivek Ramaswamy wants to be the president of the U.S. This Shanghai Brahmin is of Indian origin. He is anti-diversity, anti-environment, and anti-gender equality. These Shanghai Brahmins can outcompete even the KK gang members. What does he mean? Attacked by Brahmins for using the village well. Dalit community in Jammu lives in fear. So they talking about the lower caste people. They got the Brahmins, the Kastaris, the Vaishya, the Sudra, the Untouchables, and I believe the Dalits are down here. We the ADOS. So we ADOS, and we aligning ourselves at a barbershop with a Brahmin because we don't understand nothing about what we doing and the dangers of this photo op. Allowing this man that you look like he's not even getting no haircut to use you as a prop for no reason at all. Members of the Dalit Maisha community of Marlag village in Jammu and Umdar district have been living in a state of constant fear after some of them were attacked by members of the historically privileged Brahmin community on the night of June 9th. The attack took place 4 days after 2 Dalit women were prevented by 3 men from the Brahmin community from fetching water. Now, I'm not saying he was involved with this attack. I'm saying that he's Brahmin. You have to understand this in the context of what you might not understand because you don't know what you don't know. India's low caste women raped to keep them in their place. Lower caste Dalit women in northern India are targeted for rape by upper caste men who usually escape justice as survivors, bow to pressure to drop their cases, researchers found on Wednesday. Case-related violence in India, inhuman and degrading treatment of over 165 million people in India has been justified on the basis of caste. Caste is a descent-based and hereditary in nature. It is a characteristic determined by one's birth into a particular caste, irrespective of the faith practiced by the individual. Caste denotes a traditional system of rigid social stratifications into ranked groups. So what are you doing aligning with this man? Let's take a caller. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Troy. I'm calling from Texas. I'm in Dallas.
All right. So Troy just called in, and Troy was making a point about going to college. Can you make the point about the college and the color?
Yeah, I was saying in my personal experience, I've gone to school with people from Indian heritage like that, and they do make a distinction between, he would be considered a brown guy. From my experience, I've seen them split ranks and caste between themselves of the lighter skin, the ones that were closer to Caucasian skin colored, and them with a darker skin tone that's more of a browner to closer to our skin tone. They were considered brown, and there was like a distinction between them.
So this is what I was trying to. This is what I was saying to Troy. It makes my point clear. What I was saying earlier about how much the generation before us failed us. Now, I'm not saying they knew they was failing us, but the reality is he is Brahmin. Their social structure is not a color-based structure. We have lived in color so long, we don't understand tribes. We don't understand caste. So we get manipulated into believing because he's brown, he got oppressed too, when actually he was the oppressor. Can we talk about it? So,
I want to say that's part of the. What I want to highlight that is saying that's part of the optics and part of the play, and part of saying that this is a politician to insert you at the bottom. But even though it's still more of the elitism ruling the masses and the people without power, us, and just using the perspective of someone to relate to you, with color spectrum politics.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's happening is because we've used flat blackness, everybody getting in on it. So he said, if you got Kamala, I might as well get some too. The problem is y'all got kids. Y'all got progeny. I don't know what you're going to give them, because you're not going to give them, on the low end, $300,000 to $500,000 low end. So you're not going to give them that advantage. And then you done gave away the ADOS-ness, and now he up there. So you don't even understand that now you've let a fox into the hen house. So what do I mean? Now he's in the hen house and he's Brahmin. What do you think if a Brahmin, let me ask you this, caller. I'm going to ask you this. If a Brahmin treats an untouchable, and he's Brahmin, and I'm not saying his family did this, I'm not saying he did this, but I'm saying he's Brahmin, and they treat untouchables in this way, attacking them at wells, and you have these accusations of rape of lower caste, what do you think a Brahmin thinks of an ADOS person?
The same thing.
I'm just saying to you.
I think they have. I think he'll look at us as the same disdain. Do you have experience managing the lower class from your culture, and it translates over here the same.
Come on. So
that's how I think that we appear in their mind.
Whew. Man, that's some good stuff, man. And so as I look at this conversation, I'm looking at it in context, and I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna get to some more callers. I look at this conversation in the context of a tweet I put up earlier. I believe there's a lot of Black folks that are answering their lack with a belief in fantasy. It's particularly led by Black males, I believe, but it's Black women in there too. I want to read this tweet to you, and then we're going to tie this in with Vivek and the boycott and the right wing. Far too many Black Americans have adopted immature politics that does not reflect their life choices, projecting as wealthy singular nomads. What's a no? I'm talking about the guy with the stick and all his belongings are at the end of the stick. That's the way you talk to me about Democratic plantation and right wing and everything else. But in reality, you got 2 and 3 kids that need to be fed, and you have no money. So you need government to subsidize through food stamps, through lunch programs at school, and you talking about small government. Come on. Projecting as wealthy singular nomads that far too often actually are wealthless parents. Much of this identity subsidized by an intra-family theft of wealth. From failing on child support to dishonestly outright abandoning children because they cost too much. Sorry to be the first to tell you, leaving the party of big government is not a choice that someone with 2 kids and that can't pay for daycare gets to lean upon as an option. You already voted. You just don't know it. You ate the bread at the store. You can't choose the store after you ate the bread. You got to pay at the register. Come on. People with 2 children going to public school Monday and a grandmother on SSI need government far beyond what they pay in taxes. You live too big to project small as the answer, and there is no rewind. I'm sorry that your grandma didn't tell you. I'm sorry your mama didn't tell you. I'm sorry your girlfriend ain't said it to you or your wife. I'm sorry that your people at work ain't said it to you. But I'm going to tell it to you today. You can't be the right because you ain't got shit in your pockets. Can I talk? And ain't no rewind. And no, an often low-educated, wealthy, decadent veiled black celebrity class should not be your guidepost without them getting guidance. Far too many of you pay for your imaginary political dynamism by not paying. From failing your children in programs to develop them that cost thousands to having literally no savings and a 600 FICO. Shit, some of you have no burial money saved and are finding your wayward answers in Republicans that would see your family starve after you are gone. And that's all this barbershop scene is. It's a bunch of chest beating by chihuahuas. Can I talk about it? Can I get to it? It's easy to talk about small government if your baby mama take care of the kids. Let me say that again. It's easy to talk about small government if your baby mama fill out the application for the lunch program. A lot of feelings gonna get hurt today. Can I talk about the Democratic plantation and all this that these people talking about? People will have 3 generations, a grandma, a sister, and a child in college, all on food stamps, and be spouting conservative small government craze. Talking about a Democratic plantation or some nonsense. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program helps people with limited income buy food. Eligible students can use EBT cards to purchase groceries, and participating online stores now accept SNAP benefits for online orders. Republicans would see you starve. Some of y'all need to go down there to Mississippi. Some of y'all need to get down there in the ditch and start understanding in the deep red how it feels. So our party affiliation is what it is. You believe what you want. This is our party affiliation. We've been voting Democrat. Now you can say the Democrats ain't done enough, and I agree with you. But what you can't do is stay home if you already ate the bread at the store. You got to go to the register. But you ain't doing no organizing. Shout out to Yvette Carnell and the ADOS org for their trainings this weekend. And then you can't vote Republican because you need government. You already used government last week and this week. More government than your taxes. So what you gonna do? See, too many people have allowed you to talk without understanding what you're talking about. I want to talk about it today. Out here with child support arrears, talking about Democratic plantation, baby mama living fully on government because you ain't paying. You know, talk about it. Don't say nothing to them. Don't make them feel bad. You talking about we need to listen to Trump, and you don't even understand politics. You don't know nothing. What are the 7 core principles of conservatism? Individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law. So we talk mass incarceration and cutting them food stamps. Well, we don't need no food stamps. We don't need no school. I'm gonna teach my kid at home. Man, it's hard. I can't do this every day, teaching them at home. Limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity. So none of y'all know what y'all talking about. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, Tyler? This is Jason from Miami.
What up, Jason? Give me your take on it.
Yeah, man. Every time you bring in shows, man, it's really disheartening. I feel real bad for my ADOS family because, I mean, this is the truth. This is what the future looks like. Hard to convince people that there's a problem when you can't see the problem. Hard to tell people they're poor when you got credit cards or credit. You know, but America's going towards this guy Vivek. They're just going to make the face of Republicans brown people, so you just don't know the difference. I was telling Ms. Carnell, I said the worst thing that could have happened to the American Negro was the immigration policy without establishing some like guidelines and boundaries. Because every country has historical conflicts between their native population that you just don't speak of, like Palestine and the Israelites. You don't talk about that. The Jewish history, they don't talk about that. Native American history, you don't bring that up. But for some reason, about the ADOS people, it's fair game. You say whatever you want. Doesn't matter how long they've been here. Just whatever.
What do you think about Vivek being at this barbershop?
it just shows that a lot of Adolf people or Black American people they don't understand the difference between different skin complexions, different brown colored people. It just shows you their lack of insight, and everybody knows it. Vivek knows it. Barack Obama knew it. Kamala Harris knew it. They just know that Black Americans still see Black people through color. They see oppression through color. It's just the saddest thing.
Can I?
And that's the reason why you guys.
Can I jump in? I don't want to. I gotta interrupt. Brunel Davis with this dog as an avatar said, "I need Tone to explain why remaining on the Democrats' plantation is a better option." I just explained it. See, a lot of y'all ain't paid for living yet, so it's not about me. I don't have a child going to school on Monday. The Republicans would see your kid not have a school on Monday. See, I don't think that a lot of you guys understand your own limitations and who the Republicans are. So I don't think you've developed like a mature understanding of your interaction with the world. So what happens is that's why you end up with a photo op with somebody who is saying that Dr. King is saying that basically we shouldn't get no reparations. Go ahead. You just don't know nothing.
No. Yeah, you do have to be patient, Tone, because what ends up happening is it's difficult when you're the only one kind of being able to see like the way to go. The problem is you're fighting an uphill battle because for the last 7 years, America has, since the Moynihan report, America went towards a multicultural America, which just completely like blinded people. So because you go to school with like white people now and Spanish people or whatever, you don't know the difference. You think everything is cool, everything's all right. You just. And also,
let me say this from Jay Morrison to Charlemagne. What's happened is you guys are understanding when you don't have a high school diploma, a lot of times you can't work like a regular job. So you use personality. So a lot of you guys are listening to people who are not informed enough, and to actually be speaking on politics. I shared it before, my political science degree and the amount of political science I had to do. But before I get to that, I was going to cover this later. But you got Charlemagne, and he got 1 unit in U.S. history. So you have a guy that has one in a night school. So he dropped out of high school, and you don't know what that night school looked like or what that 1 unit entailed. But I'm guessing it's not much. He's speaking for you to President Biden. And then you listen to him and pick up little tidbits and repeat what he says. Like when he talks about, like, I just want to talk about the truth. You don't know enough to have a truth. You only have 1 unit in U.S. history. That's like he had the level of U.S. history that like your 10th grade like son has. I'm just telling you the truth, and that's a lot of these people. Jay Morrison's a high school dropout. Like, when do we get to the reality of what that actually means about how they don't know that? It's like, I don't know about being a nuclear scientist, and I'm not going to speak on that. But we don't have no, like, barriers in this political space. So you have a lot of people teaching you guys stuff that doesn't make sense. Any last thing you want to say to the caller? Let me say to the audience caller.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the reason why people feel anybody can speak on politics is because everybody engages in voting. That, and then the other thing is people will say, well, Martin Luther King didn't have this or political science. I want to tell everybody that doesn't believe education matters in this space right now, 2023. It's a lot easier to convince people that they're oppressed as they walk past a black-only, white-only building. It's a lot easier to convince a slave to run away on the Underground Railroad with no education.
Caller, and stop telling me about somebody not having a type of degree versus, I'm saying high school dropout. Like, it's because we don't want to get honest about a floor. Like, I'm saying that I don't want to hear, unless he's like a farmer or a bus driver that unionized the bus drivers. No, for real. I mean this. I don't want to hear from a high school dropout personality about politics. Because what they're doing is trying to drum up their brand value, but they don't have enough, like, understanding of the topic to speak. And it's like we just never have created this in that space, and y'all have annoyed me, honestly. So I'm not doing that no more. This is a high school dropout that has 1 unit in U.S. history, so I don't know what he talks about. So y'all figure that out, and if you don't figure out, this is what you end up with right here. So Black conservative Tim Scott has announced for president, and he's probably using this photo to anchor his understanding and his connection to Black America. T.I. and Charlemagne going down and visiting over the opportunity zones, which is really Trump's tax cuts, which we now know went to mostly white folk. And black conservatives want Tim Scott to ditch colorblind messaging with the 2024 bid. That's how he gonna get the white vote, though. Y'all don't know what this is. They just lost. And I was gonna talk about that toward the end. Black conservatives want Tim Scott to ditch the colorblind messaging with 2024 bid. Tim Scott's decision to jump into the 2024 presidential field on Friday has put questions on how he will navigate his identity as a black Republican front and center. And so you have these guys giving him that photo when he didn't deserve that photo. He deserved to be made into another boycott, period. Any last thing you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, I seen Vivek on Fox News, and he said that he believes that America needs to reinstill civic duty back into the country, and that everybody from 18 to 25 should enlist into the army to get American pride. To me, that was a slap in the face, because you never enlisted into the army. You eat all the benefits of being American, but put in no work. So do ADOS people, do they get exempt from joining the military since they built the country? Or does it not matter? You got people speaking on American politics and what needs to happen, and they just got here 30 years ago. It's a travesty. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much for calling. I wanted to get into that toward the back end of the show, but we ended up doing it now. Okay. Republicans would see your family starve after you're gone. And while you here, they see your family starve. Y'all ain't seen the water in Mississippi? Again, the 7 core principles of conservatism: individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity. I want to talk about it, but I guess I'm talking to people who know it all. But you got black men trying to pull to the right, but not understand what the right is. GOP lawmakers propose child support for fathers to unborn children. So you're already in arrears, and we're going to come back to this article. You're already in arrears. Let me see if I can find this other thing I want to read. With your child support, and you don't know that you voted for the party that will take those arrears and weaponize it and make it criminal where you can't work, where you end up in jail. You remember, I don't know if y'all remember, they was telling people in one of these states, I believe a deep South state, that they won tickets to a game, an Alabama game, I believe it was. And then they would come down excited about their tickets, and they would just throw them to the ground and arrest them for child support arrears. So you have a cohort of black men that have no idea the lengths with which the Republican Party they are empowering will go into to destroy their lives. But they out here taking photos at a barbershop. Let me make it clear, because I don't like speaking in abstract. I want to get clear. I want to make sure we understand, so we not generalizing. House and Ways Committee, hold on. Congressional Republicans take aim at child support regulations. House and Ways Means Committee, Paul Ryan, this is a few years ago, Human Resources Subcommittee Chairman Charles Bastani, Senate Finance Committee Chairman Orrin Hatch, all the Republicans, and Senator Cornyn, Republican, introduced legislation to prevent the administration from implementing proposed new regulation intended to update child support provisions. The legislation was announced along with tough talk about deadbeat dads in a press release that had some of the rhetoric last expressed during the welfare reform debates of the 90s. Each member was especially critical of the proposed regulations and a usurpation of congressional authority. The last major changes in child support were taken as a part of TANF reauthorization, with the most significant changes enacted as part of the 96 law. In fact, the child support provisions were arguably the most popular part of the 96 creation of TANF. There have been similar adjustments since 96. Understand, this is the important part. The Republican leaders expressed outrage at the proposed regulation, but there has been almost no interest by either side in reauthorizing TANF. In announcing the proposed child support rule last November 2014, this is back in 20, they want to make changes to strengthen the child support enforcement program and update current practice in order to increase regular on-time payments to families. So if you're a barber, how many people know, and I'm not saying all the barbers, that black men sometimes, I'm not going to say a lot of times, become barbers because it's cash-based and they might have a child support arrears where they're going to garnish their wages. Well, what if they send a police officer down to this barber shop and they want to check everybody's license in this barber shop? And if you got child support, we're going to go on and take you to the prison. How would you feel? And what if Ramaswamy would be the guy that would propose that legislation? Can we talk? And we know where this can go because I just read to you the Essence article. GOP lawmakers propose child support for fathers to unborn children. After Roe v. Wade was turned, so we know it's recent, the new bill would allow mothers to receive payments while pregnant. So they don't know how to pay for these people, these Americans. So what they're going to do is transfer immediately that obligation to you. Baby ain't even here yet. You better start with that $700 a month or whatever. The fight against Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade has turned into a battle which threatens to become a war with the introduction of this new bill. As reported by CBS News, Republican lawmakers have introduced a new bill, the Unborn Child Support Act, in the Senate and House. This would give mothers the ability to receive child support payments while they are pregnant, according to a statement from Senator Kramer. You got black men talking about leaving the Democratic plantation that owe arrears on child support that don't understand who they vote for. I'm gonna leave this on screen for a second for all the Democratic child plantation people. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Tony, this is Antonio, calling from Milwaukee.
Give me your take on everything.
Listen, Tone, the issue with that my mother told me one time, she said, all black people not struggling, right? And I said, will you point out the ones who not? You show me the wealthy black people. And we have an issue with living in our own reality. You know what I'm saying? As people, and I'm gonna say this too, that why not get, as black people, you look at our corner stores and everything we support in our communities, they owned by somebody else. So they, of course, foreigners going to assume that they can come over and take our political position too. And we hand it right over.
Give me your take on Vivek and being at this barbershop. Give me your take on Vivek.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you something else too about the barbershop. I did 13 and a half years in prison. So yeah, I met somebody who got 10 years for child support.
That's what I'm saying.
So that ain't nothing new. I met somebody who was doing 10 years. They raided his house. Wasn't nothing in there, so they couldn't get him on the drug charge. So he ended up getting 10 years for child support. This is not an exaggeration. This is in Wisconsin. I was at Red Granite with him.
What state again? Say that again.
Wisconsin. I was in Red Granite. Can I zoom in on? Can I zoom in?
Can I zoom in on something in what I just shared? Now, mind you, this is 2014, but still, who is the chairman behind this? Paul Ryan, Wisconsin. Child support regulations. Go ahead.
But we got the highest incarceration rate for blacks anyway. Period. This is Republican ran state. So all you got to do is look at these numbers when you're talking there. Yeah, the Democrats have a lot of shortfalls, but that's a lot with us not being held them accountable either. That's a lot with us not understanding, and like you said, it's one credit of civics, not even understanding the basis of how gerrymandering and none of that works, and us not willing to learn the basis of our politics, but speak on it.
Come on.
And that's what you're saying. You're saying even if you're not this, you should at least wait and did your research and study how the system works before you start speaking on it and sending out bad information to other people. And as far as the concept of not voting, if I told you to shut up, you would take it offensive. So if you saying no vote ain't count, and so you basically saying them people telling you to shut up, white people telling you to shut up, and you taking it.
And let me say this: some people might confuse. Antonio. Some people might confuse me earlier saying not to vote when I said you already voted. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying vote to support what your family is using to eat. So basically, you got these 2 and 3 kids. that are on public school and eat the lunch voucher program that the Republicans would cut, and your grandmama use food stamps, you need to vote to support that because you don't have no money. Now, I'm not saying that that's the end of your process, but you damn sure can't vote for somebody to cut that out of your life. Give me your take on Vivek, though.
Right. Well, that's the thing with that is, like you said, we already gave it over to Kamala Harris, and we already gave it over to the situation with Obama, and we already decided that that was black excelling when it's another race of people excelling, whether they be from Africa or freshly integrated from whatever. We've already accepted that as our progress. So damn our own sons and daughters.
Come on. And what about tell me about the barbershop before you go. In the barbershop, him showing up at that barbershop.
Well, yeah, that's the form of manipulation. They feel like they can turn their position. Like I said, they've already, because they already understood they've been able to only economically prosper off of using the black community. They know white people haven't allowed them to come up and start the businesses in their community like that. They allow them to do it in the black community. So it's the same way. They know they're going to be allowed to use black politics as a means because we're so inclusive. We include everybody and exclude ourselves at the same time.
Come on, man.
You know, and that's why I tell black people, you have to understand you included, that's for everything. You included white women in your civil rights movement, and white women get 85% of all from the faction. We keep doing this. We let on everything. Everything takes precedent over us because we join their struggle. We attach the LGBT rights to black rights, everything, and we end up, especially black men, end up at the very body skip the line on us.
Come on. Hey, so, I'm gonna let you go, Antonio. I'm gonna let you go. I got a full queue. You was fired today. Woo! We coming to the end of the show. I'm gonna probably take one more caller. But I'm seeing people when they got in the thread about the boycott Vivek, and it wasn't really coherent. I believe we have a reading comprehension problem in going on, because we can read, but I don't know if we always understand like what the words mean in context of the discussion. How are you going to boycott when he does work for you and you in your favor? You have no checks, balances, wherewithal. Why? Read the article. I don't know how to tell you how to understand things at a 30-year-old or 40-year-old level, but you better figure it out. And sitting at this barbershop with Vivek ain't figuring it out. Opinions: Republicans end run around Mississippians is being copied in other states. Republicans end run around Black Mississippians is being copied in other states. This is just a short section. And this goes back to the concept that you can go right. The racist undertones of what's happening in Jackson and Houston and elsewhere around the country are undeniable and unacceptable. Mississippi's white leadership, in a state which has the highest percentage of Black citizens in the nation, does whatever it can to ensure that its black population remains second-class citizens. Last month, the Mississippi House reestablished a racist precedent from a seemingly bygone era with the passage of HB 1020. The intent behind the legislation was to create a separate, unelected court system and expanded police force on the people who live in Jackson. Republicans' overwhelming majorities in Mississippi state legislature give them the abilities to ram through racist legislation against which Democrats, who represent a majority of Black Mississippians, have no recourse. It's the opposite of what democracy is supposed to be about. Water is another weapon that has been wielded against Black people in Mississippi. For decades, residents of the capital city, Jackson, where 83% of the population is Black, have had to contend with tainted water supplies. Understand, as we talk about tainted water supplies, hold on, let's go back and read this again. Vivek Ramaswamy, 37, has made a name for himself in right-wing circles by opposing corporate efforts to advance political, social, and environmental causes. Y'all ain't, before y'all took a picture with him at the barbershop, you didn't ask him about Mississippi water? We just gonna talk about migrants and a dangerous photo op. We're not gonna ask him nothing that's serious. In fact, we're not gonna make it clear that he shouldn't be here at all. Boycott Vivek. The problem became even worse in February 21 when late winter storm surge damaged the city's aging, deteriorating water system, leaving much of the city under a boil water alert. Some residents were left without any running water at all. The problem is both systemic and institutional. For years, the state underinvested in Jackson's basic water infrastructure. These Republicans, turning a blind eye to the water system failures and elevated levels of toxins such as lead, failing to provide even basic maintenance. This is what I'm saying to you. Understand, this is what I'm saying to you when I say Republicans that will see your family starve after you're gone. Huh. But we know what we talking about, Tone. The reaction from our state leadership, including from Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, has been to blame the victim, pointing a finger back at Jackson for alleged mismanagement of a water system state officials never adequately funded. Again, ain't that Republican? Fiscal responsibility. They ain't give you the money to live. Huh. This ain't Republicans and then. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to unblock her. I apologize, Dean, and I'll fix that. So we got so many people in here that don't understand the state of Black wealth. So they talk and they don't even know who Black people are. Black folks don't know who Black people are. So I have to continually pull this up. This is an article I did back in 2016 that showed you that Black people largely have no wealth without their family car. That's how they're basically hustling us by binding that in. Without the family car, it's $4,000. Middle Black family is worth everything they have, not liquid, everything they have. And if you took out the family, the clothes and the TV, depreciating assets, it comes down to like $2,000. Middle Black family. The 2016 survey of consumer finance released last week brought extensive new data on the assets and liabilities of American families, many tally gains and wealth for minorities, while failing to deal with the darker nuances the underlying data showed. And what it showed is that we don't really have wealth. I was hoping someone would ask Ramaswamy, this is an article from the Chicago Sun-Times, if he firmly believes our laws are flawless and should never be broken, why did he just donate $10,000 to the legal fund of a white former Marine accused of choking a Black homeless man to death? Let me say it again. I was hoping someone would ask Ramaswamy if he firmly believes our laws are flawless and should never be broken, why did he just donate $10,000 to the legal fund of the former Marine accused of choking a Black homeless man to death? Boycott Vivek. I need you to see it. Ramaswamy came to South Shore to talk migrants. I said to you earlier, this is the conundrum of Ramaswamy. He got a scholarship we don't qualify for, and then he's trying to bind back with us like we all mad at them for getting it. The Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans supported Vivek at Yale Law School. He graduated in 2013. Let me show you what the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship honoring immigrant experiences. The PD Soros Fellowship honors the contributions of immigrants and children of immigrants. The fellowship invests in graduates making contributions to society. You are helping this man go through his psychological break. Talk about it. I'll take another caller in a second. Let me let this plane go by. Can y'all read that? Just read it for yourself. 1 and 2. You getting this scholarship and then I want to take another caller. Oh, actually, I think I'm just gonna let me. It's getting a little late. Let me read this article from the Chicago Sun-Times and just keep going because I want to get through it because this is an important article. Vivek Ramaswamy came to South Shore to talk migrants. South Shore mostly stayed away. I guess for Ramaswamy, the Republican presidential candidate supposedly bent on out-trumping Donald Trump, watching a clip of Chicagoans shouting, "We don't want them here," and close the border, was incentive to rush back to the city like his immigrant mother and father did years ago, and they ran out of dal. Vivek Ramaswamy and his family would trek to Chicago at least 2 times a year when he was a boy to stock up on ingredients for Indian food that weren't available in Cincinnati suburb where they lived. When he wasn't helping with grocery shopping on Devon Avenue, or Devon as he pronounced it, Ramaswamy came into the city and surrounding suburbs to visit relatives and compete in tennis tournaments. None of these trips, he told me, included a stop on the South Side, except the time he was in Hyde Park to check out the University of Chicago campus. On Friday, 37-year-old Ramaswamy, again, Brahmin, like I said, returned to the South Side for the second time in his life to do what he thinks is right by showing up and listening to the understandable frustration of some South Shore residents who recently took legal action to keep the city from temporarily housing mostly Latin migrants at a shuttered high school. One would think the grievances of an African-American community that feels as if its needs have been pushed at the side at the expense of migrants wouldn't be of urgent concern to a Republican presidential candidate who is against affirmative action and the BLM movement. But I guess for Ramaswamy, who has been described as a right-winger bent on out-Trumping Donald Trump, watching a clip of Chicagoans shouting, "We don't want them here," and close the border was incendiary enough for him to rush back to the city like his immigrant mother and father did years ago when they ran out of dough. We'll take one last caller. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? All right.
Hello?
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you got to turn on your
hi,
background.
This is Lillian. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Lillian. I'm calling from Louisiana.
Hey, Lillian, give me your take on Ramaswamy showing up to this barbershop and going to the South Side to take photos on Black people's pain.
It's like symbolism. Everything is symbolism, you know, and Black people need to stop, Black folks need to stop taking pictures because all they need is just one Black person, and then the storm rises to the top, and you know what I'm saying? It's symbolism. That's all it is. And then he's getting the benefits off Black backs again, as usual. And I just say boycott all the immigrants that are coming over, get them out of office. And if our slot was supposed to be, we're supposed to be the representative, or we're supposed to be this because this is what we fought for, then I say put ADOS.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question, Lillian. So I got a picture on screen. Tim Scott's running for president now. I really think he's running for vice president and that he can deliver the Black vote. And part of what he can use now is pictured with none other than Charlemagne. Charlemagne's a high school dropout, went to night school. He's been talking for us with President Biden and Kamala, and then the hot sauce in her bag with none of his legitimate, like, deep talk to me. Repeating stuff from Adolf's, because when we talk about reparations, he started just nonetheless. My question to you is, what is this nonsense where you have people who clearly don't have the educational background to understand the damage that they wrought on Black community and Black politics, speaking for us and taking photo ops of this type?
I think they're selected by white corporates to do that job, and they're scripted and they're bootlegs because they follow instructions for a paycheck, which means that forever they'll be a worker. They'll never have the kind of freedom of even feeling tangible lineage reparations because their mindset is back there. Okay, I'll just give you an example. Okay, say for instance you went to school with somebody in junior high. You haven't seen them since junior high, but they were a junior high dropout. What do you think their conversation is going to be like? It's going to be only about, remember when we was in junior high? Remember this in junior high? Because that's where they're at. And you can't make that person be politically suave because they don't have it like that. All they're going to be able to relate to is what their little circumstances was in that little circle because they never left that level of education. And I'm not trying to put nobody down, but I'm just saying if that's where you at, that's where you're at.
So look, I'm gonna let you end out the show by speaking about boycotting Vivek as he speaks about Black issues in all the wrong ways and misquotes, to me at least, Dr. King?
I think we should boycott everybody that's not ADOS or affiliated with Picket Cotton or anything. Right now, I think we need to put in our own people that did the struggle, because the struggle is not free. And everyone thinks because you take a photo op, I say boycott the politicians that are not doing the right thing. I say boycott Florida, boycott Chicago, hold the line, Chicago and Callan, hold the line. But boycott, I think that's the most effective step that we can make at this particular time.
Man, powerful. Thank you so much for calling. That was a powerful call to end on. Well, I wanted to come in and have a discussion about Vivek Ramaswamy and this presidential campaign where he's taking photo ops in the South Side, and he ain't never been to the South Side supposedly but 2 times, and it's all to sit on top of Adolf's lineage because he feels he got a doorway. We all brown. I need you guys to understand the complexity of being Brahmin, the complexity of tribal differences in Africa, the complexity of Adolfsness. And I need you guys to understand what you don't know. This is Tone Talks. Please go to tonetalks.net, subscribe, donate, share this video. Let's have the discussion nobody's having. Please support the channel and share the video. Thank you.